So you may have heard recently that interest rates are at an all-time low. But what does that mean? And what does that mean for you as a consumer and for you as a new home buyer? Hey everyone, Devere Wilkie here with Charles Wixom Realty, and today I'm talking about the different things that affect an interest rate. What does it mean to have a different interest rate, and why is it important to talk about what influences your interest rate? So let's go ahead and get started. First thing, there's a huge list of things that goes into determining your interest rate specifically. And the important thing to remember here is that each interest rate is going to be different for each applicant, for each loan applicant. It really depends on a huge number of factors, and I'm going to talk about some of them today. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but some of the big ones that are some things that you as a consumer can change, and sometimes it's things that you can't change. So when you are quoted an interest rate from a lender, one of the things they look at is the property type. So is it a multifamily versus a single family home? Is it a rental property? Is it going to be your primary residence? This highly affects your interest rate because the lender needs to know, are you going to be living there or is someone else going to be living there? So this is super important to look at. Another thing is a purchase versus a refinance. They have different interest rates. So if you're purchasing a home versus refinancing one that you live in, and again, it depends on if it's a multi-unit, your primary residence or not. Is it a vacation home? Things like this go into affecting your interest rate. The loan size is another one, and specifically your loan to value ratio. So if the value of the home or property is really, really high, and your loan amount is smaller, then your interest rate is typically going to be better. Whereas if you have a high loan amount and a high value and a high loan amount, then your interest rate is going to reflect that, right? So loan to value is really important. That's why your down payment affects your interest rate. So however much you have saved for a down payment will affect your interest rate. That's another factor. Your debt ratios. So you as the consumer, right, this is one that you can control. Your debt ratios say how much income you make every month versus how much debt you have. Car payments, student loans, child support, alimony, things like that you have to pay every single month. That goes into your debt to income ratio, right? So this is really important for a lender to look at your risk factor. And that's really what an interest rate is they're giving you a number that defines your risk factor as a borrower. So super important, your employment status is another one. How long have you been at that job? How long have you been in the same kind of industry? If you've recently switched jobs, do you have a consistent work history over the past few years? These are all factors in your interest rate. Credit score. And this is not just the number. If I have the same credit score as someone else who applies, it doesn't matter because they look at more in depth than just the number, right? They look at how many late payments have you had, how many missed payments, if there are any, how many on-time payments, again, your debt to income ratio, so how much is showing on your credit score of your credit report of what is what's coming in and out, right? That's really what it is. Your reserves is another one. So how much money do you have in the bank? A lot of times with a purchase or a refinance, depending on the type of loan, you have to show between 3 and 6 months of reserves. So if you lost your job, your spouse lost their job, and you had to pay out of your bank account, do you have a few months worth of reserves that you could use to pay your mortgage? This is especially important on investment properties, second homes, vacation rentals, anything that's not your primary residence. They really want to see that if everything were to fall through, you can still pay your payments on time. So those are just a couple of things that affect your interest rate as a borrower. Be sure to do your due diligence and check with a lender, talk about these things. The nice thing is right now, it is so important to talk with your lender about any of these issues. If you are worried about any of these things, again, talk to a lender and have them sit down with you. Maybe start an application and they can start to see things that may be red flags to an underwriter. They can say, hey, let's work on your credit here. Let's close this account or pay off this credit card. There's different tactics for each person to help improve your interest rate. So hope that helps, and be sure to check out my other videos specifically on real estate investing, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.